your host, Kristen Medeiros, and today I have a story that will change how you think about identity, purpose, and the way we raise our kids. Our guest is Julia Myers, also known as the One Eyed Pharmacist, and her story is nothing short of extraordinary. Julia, welcome to Flying Upstream.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to get to share.
Amazing. Let's just jump right in. So, your journey starts in a place many people see as safe and stable. You are a pharmacist, trained in a world where the answer is always to fix the problem. Then, life threw something at you that medicine could not fix. Tell me about the moment your vision suddenly changed and what followed.
Got it. And I think we all think we're invincible until we're not. And so that stable security literally flashed before my eyes as I was sitting in the hospital where I worked. I was a director of pharmacy. I was working up patient charts. My screensaver is my beautiful Instagram worthy family in the background. When all of a sudden, that gray film started to go over the right side of my vision. And I'm like blinking, squinting. You're like, okay, maybe I'm just staring at a screen too long. And then it hit me. I know these warnings. I know what it's like to say, if you experience sudden changes in your vision, call your doctor right away. And so I did. And I literally walked out of my office and I headed up the stairs and I didn't have any depth perception. I had to grab the rail of the stairs that I've taken hundreds of times, multiple times a day. I'm usually like hustling them up. And I'm sitting there in the eye doctor's office, who's my friend, my colleague, and I see him turn around in his chair and his face, his eyes are like cold instantly. It's like, yep, you have a spontaneous retinal detachment. We'll need to get you in for surgery. Would 2 or 3 today work better? And all of a sudden, in a blink, it went from, let me get this checked out, to I'm going in for surgery. And then the rest of the story is we couldn't fix it. We couldn't restore that vision that was lost. We tried, we tried, we tried, we tried. John Hopkins couldn't even fix it. 18 months later, I am literally faced with double vision every day. So I'm able to see you out of my left eye. But even though they fixed the retina, the alignment, so the two eyes don't work together. We're not amphibians with that magic power where we can look at different things at the different times. But what we are is very adaptable human beings. And that's why I am so excited to be not just living upstream, but flying upstream in my new chapter.
First of all, I love your point that life really does change in the blink of an eye. Sometimes life is a series of slow moments that gradually lead up to something, and sometimes it's just so fast you can't even wrap your head around it. And especially your point, I think it was even your first sentence, you said, we all think we're invincible. And I know I felt that way too, where I think, oh, this disease, that's something that happens to other people. That doesn't happen to me. In my mind, I'm like, I'm a good person. That would never happen. But that's not true. That's just so faulted in so many ways, that sort of thinking. And the reality is, things do happen to everybody. Every single person out there has something, whether it's big or small, gradual, or in the blink of an eye. We all have that. And it's super important to recognize that when things do happen to us, it's not, in a weird way, it's not uncommon. Just because we don't talk about the things that are happening in our personal lives, these afflictions we go through, doesn't mean it's not happening to other people. So I just love that you pointed that out, that it's important to keep that in mind, that we're not alone. Even though these things are scary and life-changing, you're never really alone.
Love that
So
reminder, that illusion of control. You said you were a good person. That can't happen to me. I was in the idea of I've checked the boxes. I've done it all right. I have all the things in place to get my eyes dilated once a year, and you do all the things to prevent. And you're reminded that there's just an illusion of control. It's not actually control.
yes, so spot on. Yes. Okay. So I know that you went through 5 surgeries in 18 months, as you said. to try to address your vision and your retina. And it was during the height of COVID. And that alone would honestly shake anybody. But there's something bigger here. You had built a life where work was not just work, it was identity, it was security, and really the marker of being a good provider. So, what happened internally when you realized you might never return to that career because you do need both eyes for depth perception?
I remember being handed consent forms, and I had already taken out my contact in my good eye. We were going in for surgery on this eye, and I remember just seeing nothing. And in my gut, really feeling, what if I can't ever see again? Like, what does that mean? And it was such an interesting role reversal to hand back consent forms that I had probably contributed to writing at some point during my duration at the hospital, back to the nurse to say, can you read this to me? And the role reversal and the reminder of how dependent we are on our senses, but specifically sight, whether we're unlocking our iPhone or reading a consent form or all the things we do in a day, that for me was that gut check that said something's going to be different and it's never going to be the same. And I'm either going to appreciate the sight when I do have it or when it's restored. And you keep hope for as long as you can. And then the other side that said, I'm going to have to ask for help. Might not be just today, but it's going to be at some point. And this illusion of control, this illusion of figured outedness, achievement often can conceal how much we really do need help and we do need support and community around us when life's hard, when life's challenging, and when stuff life throws you things that you just didn't even see coming. And I know that sounds so punny, but that's how it works. So I remember sitting in with those consent forms, and then the next day I had some adjustable sutures. So meaning they were saying, while you're under anesthesia, we can't quite tell if your eyes are aligned. Let's have you awake while we adjust them. And I remember sitting in that little eye thing, where you put in, they're doing this, and he's pulling on the sutures saying better or worse, better or worse. And to me, it was the craziest feeling of I have no control. All I have to do is respond to what's happening to me. And that was just a scary moment. And that was when my gut was like, they're both bad. Now what? It's not better. It's not worse. It's the same. And it's not coming back into focus the way that I was expecting.
Yeah, I appreciate what you're saying, that it was kind of these various moments as you went through this whole situation where you keep hoping as long as you can. And then that moment where you realize, wow, both options are bad. Neither one is really good, but still managing to take it day by day. And I don't want to just oversimplify it to say just keep up hope, keep putting a smile on, because it's not just that, but it's about how you're adjusting to it and having the sort of micro realizations along the way.
That was it for me. It was the micro realizations. It wasn't this one aha moment of here and there. But the final straw was I had tried to work part-time throughout all of this. I had kind of physically recovered and some swelling had gone down, but I was really limited. I cut my meetings in half. I'm squinting at people while I'm talking. I wasn't able to maintain eye contact when I had to fire somebody. And as a leader, as a female leader, there's a confidence piece there. There's a nonverbal piece there. And remember, during COVID, we're all wearing masks. So I can't make eye contact and connect emotionally with this person that I'm letting go. That to me was the professional moment of the accumulation of micro moments that said, this is a place that may not have a seat for you at the table anymore. And that's kind of when I knew, out of service to my team, out of service to the people I worked with, it's not that I couldn't do it, it's that that's not how I wanted to show up.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I love what you said. You and I chatted before this, and you said how the real pivot became your kids. You were deep in financial independence, retire early movement at that time, and then suddenly everything changed. You could not work. The numbers no longer told the whole story. What did you start asking yourself as a parent in that moment?
I found that I had been chasing what I thought was the end goal, that we all know is really just a new goal post. And that every time you hit said goal, it just means you move the needle. Whether you move the commas, whether you move the city or the house or the square footage or what you're driving, there was always something next. And it had me really sit and think about this might be where I need to find contentment. Instead of always searching or feeling like I needed more, it was what does contentment look like that has been given to me as a gift? And how do I reframe that? Because my kids are watching. And my kids are, we're a blended family. We've got five. They were all living at home at the time. And being able to see how they watched me react and even call out that you seem less stressed. You seem happier. You're hanging out with us more all the time. And I had to remind myself that's what many people really want is that independence, that ability not to, have to leave the house and go to work and do all of those things, even though that's what I had always thought I would be doing forever. And so when I framed it for my kids, it became, again, not a choice you would choose for yourself, but it is something that you can control how you react. And I chose to react with contentment and to react with curiosity of, okay, what can I learn with is in my new capacity? And that also meant that, my youngest learned to read early so she could read to me. And that is just such a cool moment because we all know what it's like doing the bedtime routine and the lights are dark and the fonts are crazy cursive. And she chose to read early. And so that to me is way more valuable than any amount of income that I was bringing in or whatever it was that was tied with my performance and achievement outside the home.
Yeah. And how special that you could take this situation, something that was taken from you, and put it in a completely different perspective. As you said, now you were staying home with your family, had this special time with your child where they were actually reading to you and just kind of putting a different lens on it, if you will, where most people would do anything to be able to stay at home with their kids and just hang out and be happy and sip hot chocolate. And you actually got to do this. And that's such a beautiful way to view it. So I just want to call that out and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. And I do want to call out that having that financial stability allowed that second part of the gift to really be realized. It didn't come with strings attached. It didn't come with the financial stress or the financial worry. I'm blessed to have been out of debt at that point and not having to make particular student loan payments or these payments or those. Like we were living within our means and we were able to pivot fairly seamlessly. And not everyone has that ability to do so, but I do think that that's a great reminder that you never know when your ability to earn an income will go away. And so that is why you absolutely need to be prepared with the emergency fund, the rainy day things. I exhausted all my PTO and all the things. Someday you might not have that income. So how dependent upon that have you become, or how free are you to be able to make that choice to stay at home instead of having to go back and do something that was incredibly physically and emotionally difficult. So that was a gift as well that I think is worth calling out. It's you can enjoy the gift when there's no strings attached. No pun intended. This is a very punny conversation.
I love it. Something used to landed with me. You realized that you had been raised in a world where money was not really talked about, that you grew up middle class, you had everything you needed, and the goal was simple. Get a good job, save, check the boxes. Your worth came from your ability to earn and provide. And after losing a part of your vision, you had this identity shift, and you talked about it as a blessing. How did this transform the way that you see money, worth, and happiness?
Ooh, powerful question that I would ask if you're listening, sit with that. Because that's a question we all should answer, independent of the circumstance of how do you tie your money with your worth or your self worth with your net worth? They're not the same. And when you have attached them together for so long, uncoupling it is painful. It causes some scar tissue because all of a sudden it's like you thought that that's what mattered and it doesn't. And so for me, that mindset shift really became not so much something that I could measure. That's what I like to think about. Rich is something you can measure, you can quantify it. Someone can have more than you, and someone will always have less than you. Now, wealth, on the other hand, that's something that is internal. It can't be taken away from you in a sense of it's how you approach it and it's how you position it in your life and that internal barometer of what's enough for me and for my family. And so to me, money became not what was checked in my bank account every single day and, refreshing and refreshing. It wasn't about those numbers. It was about what's the direction? And am I feeling this alignment with how I'm spending not just my time, not just my attention, but my dollars too? Because if we look at our calendars and we look at our budgets and we look at our screen time, those very clearly show us what's most important. And I would say that if there's not alignment there, then the worth or the wealth that you might associate with it might not be what you think it is. Or on the flip side, you don't have to have that many dollars to be wealthy. So that is such an important question I think that we all should sit with and ask our partners about. So your spouse, your partner, talk to your kids about it. What does it mean and what does it look like? Would you rather be rich or wealthy? I love that question around the dinner table. And just listen to the answer because your own brain wants to control the response, right? But I love that question at the dinner table.
And what I so appreciate, Julia, is that now you help parents raise kids who are financially mature without entitlement. So it's such a bold mission, and I wish I had been brought up that way, that I had had that knowledge as a kid. And I know so many listeners feel this tension that they want to give their kids a good life, but they worry they're not preparing them for the real world. In your opinion, what does teaching kids about money actually look like when you want them to grow up grateful and grounded, not overwhelmed or entitled?
Great question, and you are right on with the disconnection. So as parents, our intention is not to spoil our kids. Our intention is not to enable them, but that's kind of the impact we're having. And so I like to say, in our own journeys, we all had to do hard. We all had to learn. And where are those opportunities in our parenting journey, whether your kids are little enough that they're at daycare and they learn how to share, and that can translate to money because not all the money you have is for your own consumption. A lot of it can be for giving and for sharing. And then as they get older and older, there's these age appropriate conversations, but also safe ways to learn hard. Let them take ownership. Let them have the skills that are practiced. We don't just wake up and know how to be discerning and wise. You have to practice it. And you have to get it wrong as much as you get it right. And what I would caution is waiting until the day that they're 18 or 21. They can get their own financing, they can sign for their own lines of credit, and now we've got way riskier, more lifelong problems when it comes to that relationship of debt and potentially living outside of your means. So take those opportunities to teach hard and skills, not just numbers. I say that we teach sexual education at school. That's not where they're really learning the value around that. Same with money. So you can't blame the schools and say the schools aren't teaching it. And you can't say that you didn't know it growing up because thankfully how we bank is so very different. Females don't need spouses to take out mortgages. And if you tell the kids to go to an ATM, they think it's like a candy machine. They don't know what an ATM is. So getting rid of those taboo myths that maybe keep us stuck as parents to then say, what is this opportunity for a lesson for my child to learn what's money for? Where does it come from? And what happens when they spend it, either wisely or unwisely? And how do you let them sit in that decision?
I really appreciate this because this is a conversation that you're absolutely right. Literally every single family should have at a young age. And to your point, having slightly different conversations as they grow and age up. The conversation I have with my 4-year-old is not going to be the same that I have with my 7-year-old or when they're 15 or, older than that even. And I think kind of bringing that back that because anybody's life can change so quickly, whether it's, a vision or a sickness diagnosis, someone in your family passes away and your life changes, whatever it may be, we cannot escape the fact that money is kind of what we need to survive, whether you like that or not. Like, we need money to buy food, pay your rent or your mortgage. Like, that just is how our society works. And the earlier you can have a healthy conversation with your children, the better they will be equipped as they grow older. So I love that. And
Yes.
I also don't want to forget about your gift for our audience today, which is so generous. You have a TEDx talk coming up in Chicago in January, which is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and you are walking people through this family vision process. Tell us a bit about that experience and what that talk will be about.
Yeah, so my talk, which is such an honor to be able to share a big idea, is the power that we all do have when we lose control of everything around us. And it's my story that I've shared a little bit today, and we go into way more details on the stage. And I would love for listeners to be able to watch that talk and share it and spread the message, because it is just so unexpected and so surprising that you can be trained in something and there's no medicine to fix it. And you can still, on the other side, really find what really is valuable and worth it to you. So that's what I get to talk about. And then also get to share what I do with families is creating that kind of family vision experience. At work, we often had missions and visions and values, but what about at home? Can we articulate? Have we put words to what our family's about and what we're not? And then that becomes the tool by which you make decisions. Yes, I want to buy this. Well, is it in service of our family values and our vision? Or does that feel a little bit out of alignment compared to maybe that other choice over there? And when you can say why as a parent and not just no, yes, fine, right? Those are the three answers we say as parents. When you can have a tool that you can point to physically and say, this is what we're all about, that teaches them now how to have those healthy conversations, but also how to make decisions. Because someday when we're not here, they are going to make decisions, and you need to have maybe created that foundation for them to stand on of what are the tools that they need to be able to say, do I want this? Do I need this? And is it because I want it or the world around me, which I don't want to discount? The Joneses growing up were who we had next door, and you could usually hear them fighting about money. Now it's everybody on the internet. And I think that your world of comparison has just exploded exponentially. So if you can answer, is this a want or a need? And is this for me or for somebody else? I think you are in two great places to start. So my free gift is a money mindset makeover. So the next time you want to buy something, your kid asks you to buy something, it is a short 10-minute pause reflection. I'm not saying no or yes. I'm saying that if you can't answer those questions why we're buying it, maybe we should pause. So that's my free gift to you, juliamyers.com/money, MONEY, because who doesn't need a little money mindset makeover?
Beautiful. I know I'll be going there as soon as we're done here. Thank you for that, Julia. That's incredible. Before we close, I want to circle back to something you said that is so powerful. You grew up believing medicine would fix everything, then you went through something medicine could not fix. You were taught to chase the stable job, save money, follow the path, and then you discovered that life is not a straight line. You told me your first memory of money is counting coins with your dad. Now, as a mom, you ask yourself a new question. Are your kids prepared for life, or are they only provided for? And it's such a that is such a profound shift. For any parent listening who feels the same fear, what's one truth you want them to take away?
The most important thing is that today is the day that the new relationship with money and finances starts. We all have a past. We all have influences, whether it was generational, social, cultural. Our immediate family shaped how we felt about money. And today you might have a new taste of what that feels like. And now you, as the leader of your family and maybe the founder of what that next generation thinks about money, today is the day that you can make that decision. And asking yourself, are they blessed or are they burdened? If what you're leaving is a lottery, we all know what happens when you win the lottery. You're not much happier. But if you can tie the wisdom with the wealth, that is where the magic happens. And that is where your legacy, how you feel about money, outlives whatever the numbers and dollars and cents are in the bank account.
Wise words, Julia. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with such honesty. You remind us that life can change in a moment, but that shift can reveal wisdom we never expected. You've been so inspiring today. Thank you. For anyone who wants to connect with Julia, you can follow her journey toward her TEDx talk and upcoming show. Check the links in the show notes. And to my free spirits out there, thank you for listening. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and of course, keep flying upstream.